Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are new here, hi, thank you. Right now I am on a no buy. Well, I might not be when this video goes up. I don't know when this video is going up, so this could be further out in the future, but I either am currently or was recently in the past on a 6-month no buy. So I'm being critical of not only new releases, but also my own collection. I used to be a purveyor of Pat McGrath eyeshadows. And as you can see here, I have the first 8 motherships. I don't have Mothership 9. I made a video actually on Mothership 9 and why I wasn't interested in buying it. And I will link that in the cards up there or in the description box below. I will definitely forget to put in the description box. Anyway, what I thought could be an interesting thought activity for us to do together is to compare and contrast, see how much repetitivity is actually in the Pat McGrath palettes and get a good sense of, if you have all of them or if you were ever coveting all of them, how much you are or are not missing out. So it's kind of just like a swatch party in general. I don't know that we're going to swatch all of the shades. We're just going to swatch shades that appear to be similar in the palettes. Now, I think the first thing to note for sure is that in the first 3 motherships, I think I have them in the correct order. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 going here. In the first 3, Extreme Black is the same shade in the bottom left-hand corner of all 3 of those palettes. So that is something to note. And then we have a myriad of golds and browns. So kind of what really sparked this was that there's a gold, whether or not it is a similar gold to another gold, but there is a gold in every single one of these palettes. And what's interesting is that I'm not someone who really particularly enjoys putting gold eyeshadow on my eyes. And yet, here I am with so many palettes that have like a gold in them. Now, maybe gold is not the color story of these palettes, but I just think it's worth noting. Another common color in these palettes, I'm not gonna swatch the blacks, but another another palette, another color that shows up in a lot of the palettes is dark browns. So we have this one up here, this one down here, this one over here, 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 and here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to keep all of those ones on the playing field, and we're gonna swatch all of those browns. Oh no, this is one of those browns. There's one there. I think all of them have some kind of dark brown. Now this one is definitely going to be different because this is the Mothership one and it's like definitely more cool tone leaning, but let's give them all a look. So which 1, 2, 3, and 5, and go near the dot right here. So this is number 6, number 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Now these are all very different. You can definitely tell. I will say these 2 felt much better than the rest of them, and they also swatched significantly better than the rest of them. So I don't know what's different about these formulas that these formulas are like missing out on. So that's just something to note. So the browns are all different. They have subtleties. So the next thing I want to swatch is there's golds in literally every single one of these palettes, and I just want to swatch them all. And some of them might have more than one, but some of them only have one. So we're just gonna, again, go in numerical order. Actually, Mothership 2 doesn't really have a gold. These are all kind of bronzes. Right, so 1, 3, 4, and 5. So there's also nuances in the gold, but I do think it's interesting that nearly every single one of Pat McGrath's palettes has a gold in it. And I don't know that that's like everyone's gig. Like some people really do like gold and like warm neutrals and, you know, they want that gold, but it's certainly not what I'm living for. Okay, so some of these pigment shades they're very similar. So this one's gonna require some like maneuvering, but ones that appear similar to me. This one, this one. Those all appear very similar to me. So, okay, so we're gonna do 5, 6, and 7. So I will say the number 6 and number 7, those are pretty similar. They're like I don't know if they're gonna like pick up the nuances on camera, but there's like a little bit of like a almost pinkish situation happening in the one from Mothership 6, and the one from Mothership 7 is definitely more like nudie, and I don't know how else to describe it other than that's the scenario. What I think I'm figuring out as we're doing this, and this is something I've never actually like sat down and done before, is that like while some things in these palettes do appear to be similar upon first sight, is that there is nuances on them. And so while I'm looking at them, like I guess we also, you know, in the context of what I'm currently doing is like in my no-buy, trying to have less stuff, trying to not bring in so much stuff, is that like I'm actually just like overwhelmed by having this many of them. And I've already mentioned on my channel that I am decluttering this one, but I wanted to do this video before I actually did go through with it and declutter it. So I maybe this video is now taking a different turn. It's turning into something that it wasn't initially supposed to be, because I did just want to swatch kind of like things that I felt like were similar, but now I just am kind of like, this isn't really a reckoning, because I am going to go through and review all of them. The only one that's going to like leave my collection after I'm done filming this is this one, because I already reviewed it. I'll leave the playlist where I am like reviewing all of my Mothership palettes in the cards, and then also in the description box below. I'm like, I have such, I don't even know, I don't really have thoughts, but I have thoughts, and I don't know I don't know what to say. So I'm gonna just remove the Mothership one from the situation, because I do think, like, looking at this versus the rest of this, there's something like very unique and special that like you don't see in any of the other palettes. Everything else leans warm or is neutral or like has warmth to it. And I'm also gonna remove this one because if you wanted to hear my in-depth thoughts about it, you can just watch the video. And what's interesting is the first one that like the ones that are standouts to me are like not, I don't think they're the standouts to like everybody. I really like this one, and I've always had a partialness to Midnight Sun that I'd never felt like anyone else who had Pat McGrath collections really cared for, but this one was always like the one, if I were to recommend it to anyone, it's this one. I also could have swatched the Skin Show Glows, but to me they're so inconsequential, and I find them to be such uninteresting shades in the palette overall, on the palettes overall, that it's like not, it's just not worth it for me to swatch all of those for you in this video, because it's now something completely different. And then this one, which I believe is maybe one of the more popular Mothership palettes, is so uninteresting to me. And I bought it just because it was Pat McGrath. However, I have used this palette like a handful of times. And that's the other thing, is like my relationship time varies with each one of these. Like I would say I probably have used Mothership 5 and 6 the most, but they don't even look like they're that used. And this one, you can definitely tell I've like had fun digging into it, especially that shade up there. So it's like I don't even know my relationship with these palettes, and so it saddens me because these are expensive palettes that I like really never took the time to get to know, with like a couple exceptions, and I have 8 of the 9 of them. And if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't buy this one. This one's not even like a regular one of the Mothership palettes. This one is just shimmers. And they're pretty. They are, but they're not like, they're not anything I need, right? They're not like, that's really grungy and taupey. And again, I haven't gone through and reviewed all of these yet. And it's very possible that I could keep this in my collection after playing with it for a while. But the thing is like, why did I buy it? Why did I buy it? Whenever I look at this, I'm just like, as of right now, it wouldn't have added anything to my collection because like I never use it. And here we are stuck with it. I mean, obviously I can pass it on and rehome it if I decide after my review that it's not for me. What am I learning from this? What am I learning from trying to do this video? Well, I think it's something that I'm learning in the process of my no-buy, just kind of in general, is that I used to just like buy these because they had Pat McGrath's name on them, because I was like, oh, it's luxury. I'm very into luxury. I want to have all of the nice things. And Pat McGrath was like what I viewed as the epitome of luxury. And it's not that I don't love luxury makeup. It's not that I don't love some of these palettes, but I was never critical of them before bringing them into my collection. I was just like, another mothership, another day, I'm gonna buy it. And it's the other, like, so if like, let me think critically. If I were to have the opportunity to start over and have all of this money back, because we're looking at a pretty penny when we're looking at it, I think I would have only ended up with these 5 just upon seeing them, not talking about using them at all. Like, I would have only purchased these ones to have in my collection. And while there's only like 3 that I wouldn't have considered buying, this is much less scary than having like all 8 of them. And the other thing that I guess I'm kind of like harboring, just thinking about critically here, is that all of these special shades that, like, I think so many people lust after in these palettes, they are something similar is already like available on the market now. And when I was swatching them just now, the formula in these 2 feels different than the formula in these ones from the special shades. Like, these special shades, with the exception of like these textured chunky ones, felt a lot smoother than even the smoother ones in the older palettes that I have. So I don't know what that's about either. And it's also, you know, I could have been buying product that had been sitting in a warehouse for a while too. Maybe that's why some of the formulas feel different. I don't even know what to call this video now. I don't know where I'm landing. I'm like looking at them, and again, I still see a lot of overlap. I guess what I've learned in this little tiny project, this very, and I don't want to belabor this too much, because I think if I keep going, I will, is that this has, more than anything else I've done thus far, being critical of my own collection, has made me feel the worst. This one has made me feel the most shame about my purchasing behavior before doing this short experiment. However, I'm still gonna power through. I'm still gonna power through and review all of them, because maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe I'll be delighted that I have them. But and whenever I'm doing my reviews, I'm saying like, would I buy this again? Like, that's what am I breaking it? I'm boiling it down to like, would I buy it again? And I've already learned that I would not, because I've already learned that this is not something that I need in my collection. And the reason I bought this is because I wanted these shades specifically, but specifically this green. I'm learning, and maybe, you know, I also think this is good advice to other people, is that if there's one shade in a palette, look for a single dupe, because unless you're very intrigued by the rest of what's going on here, and I also really like this shade right here, we don't need a whole palette. We just need singles that like evoke the feeling of this. And I will say this is like the single indie shadows that I've used and tried that have like these special shifts and these special textures and this, all of this, not have like necessarily performed better, but have performed in such a way that is like on par with this. So I think that's like where I'm going to leave my thought process. I'm finally feeling, I'm excited that this is, I'm gonna put it in my little declutter bin. And pass it on to someone who may like it. I've offered to a couple people, but it has not found its new permanent home yet. That isn't me. So that's not going to be in the drawers anymore, which I'm very excited about. I'm glad that I did this today, even though I wanted to wait until I was done reviewing all of them, but I think that was pointless. And I can always compare things to this, because now that I have spent time with it and I have a relationship with Mothership 2, I can speak to it whenever I'm using any of the palettes. And as of right now, I am currently playing with this one, and just kind of, spoiler alert, I like this one. I like this one quite a bit. And I'm not done, right? I'm not necessarily done. But I think I'm liking it so much because these both have like varied options, very varied options, whereas this one is, we're doing warm, and this one is, we're very decidedly doing something pink, and this one is like very decidedly, we are just doing something neutral. These 2 these two, as I know them, as my relationship with them is currently, these challenge me, but not in a bad way. Like, I don't think that these color stories are difficult, but I do think these color stories push me to do something that I wouldn't do. And so it's been really nice to play with that one and continue loving that one. And the other thing is just like, I have so many eyeshadows. I don't know what I think I'm doing. I don't know why I'm kind of just like whittling these down as I talk about them, but here's just like some like this is a companion palette because these are all shimmers, and some people do use all shimmers on their eyes, and you know, I have no relationship with this palette, and I've had it for over a year. I think I don't even know that I've ever put this on my eyes in the year I've had it. So that's confusing. What I liked about this palette though is when I brought it into my life, it was the first mothership that I really like owned and had a relationship with, and I think I have such a fondness for it because I played with it so much because it was the only one I had for quite a while. It made warm tones interesting to me, and I never really enjoyed warm tones before this, so this definitely did something special. This definitely like was a warranted purchase for me. But then when we get down to these two, I don't wear pink that much, so buying a palette that's like inspired by the color of pink, just divine rose, inspired by like rosy shades, makes no sense for either one. I should never have bought either one, but I also really should have taken a look at this one right here, and like really thought about it, because this is something that is, while beautiful, and I'm not going to take that away from it, is truly boring. Like this of all of these palettes really didn't add anything to my collection, and so that's upsetting to me. But maybe whenever I build a relationship with it, whenever it's like the only palette I use for a while and I'm forcing myself to use it, and maybe it won't feel like I'm forcing myself to use it after a while. Once I have that relationship with it, like maybe that will change, that will change. Maybe I will recommend this, maybe I will enjoy it. But as it stands right now, I don't think I will. I don't think it's going to be like the worst thing I use, but I also don't think I'm going to be like interested in using it. And the other thing about this one is that the textures aren't even as interesting as some of the other palettes. Like this one's just like straight across, it's fine. It's just fine. So there's that. And then not only that, I bought this, very rarely used it, and then this one came out and I was like, yeah, I want that. And you know, this extraterrestrial shade right here is the one that everyone's after because it's a multi-chrome. But as I mentioned before, is like, I have multi-chromes in my collection that I like more than this. Like, I don't think this is the one, right? And it's a nice formula, and it has, you know, all of the things you want in it because it's a multi-chrome, but it's just like, I don't really like the way it applies versus my Cliona singles that I have. And I didn't know that at the time because I didn't have my Cliona shades whenever I ended up buying this, but you know, I'm just feeling a little bit of shame, a little bit of disappointment. And we don't need to like belabor that and comment like in the comment section. I don't need anyone to say like, I don't feel bad, because it's not like an overwhelming feeling of sadness, an overwhelming feeling of like I've made some big error. But in the moment, I thought these were all the best choice for me because I didn't take the time to consider otherwise. Okay, I think that's where I'm gonna leave this video. So it started as a swatch party and it ended up just being something completely different. And I think that's okay because, you know, these things happen. Anyway, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed and you enjoyed whatever just happened, please hit the subscribe button. And if you like my voice and want to hear more of it or want to see more of me, I have a link tree. It takes you to the couple podcasts that I'm on. It takes you to my Instagram. So there's that. Those are all things to know. Thank you so much again for watching this. My cheesy tagline that I've come up with: follow your haute and you will find me. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one, friends.